In the last few weeks, we've been talking about Christ picking different disciples. And we talked a lot about Christ and John the Baptist as being a special person who prepared the way. Today we are jumping to a different topic today that's a little bit different but still connected. To a topic that we heard as we listened to the word from 1 Corinthians. That maybe sound very confusing. Or even, it could be even silly to some of us talking about, should I eat meat that's already sacrificed to the idols? What should I do with that now? It's not something I care about as somebody who live in 2024 United States. Like that's something sound very medieval or old. What is big thing about? Before you judge that and you think that sound like maybe is like not something that you care about, you need to go back to history and understand why this was a big deal. So first, you need to ride with me in the time machine to go back 2,000 years to understand why this was a big deal. What may look to us today like is unnecessary, maybe it was very important for them back then. What is the problem here that Paul is bringing to the Corinthians? So the problem is, to explain it simply, was about we converted to Christianity, but before that we were what? We were worshiping idols. So we were worshiping other gods. Do not forget, the only religion that worshipped one God was Judaism. The whole world was worshiping millions and hundreds of gods. You can create your own gods. Anything you want to make God, it is God, and was very accepted. So you live in a world that's really strange for them to think about the oneness of God. The only group that believed in the oneness of God was the Jews, and they were a small minority that lived in the Middle East. But all over the map, everywhere you go, was very okay to make your own gods. To the point, even when you create a symbol of God and you carry God with you in your bag, so when you travel, that God is with you to help you in your trip. So just understand that just coming from this world about hundreds of gods, anything can be gods. And there is no competition. Everybody has a rule. One to control the wind, one to control the sea, one to control the... So there is a rule for everybody. And there is... So when you come to somebody and say, I have a God that's do this, oh, that's good. Come join our gods. So this is the kind of culture that these gods are not competing. They are making life better. Or even you need to worship them if you are afraid of them to avoid their troubles. Again, I want you to go back and imagine that you are living in this kind of culture. The idea of the oneness of God was so strange for them. So then, so you have a Jew convert to Christianity, the disciples. That was very easy for them to follow the idea of the oneness. But then when you go to the Gentiles, everybody else was not a Jew. And at this time, we're talking about the Greeks. Then you're talking about the people who are like, they have Zeus, they have hundreds. You can name all the gods, and this word's very normal for them. And then you are coming and say, no, it's one God. So to make this long story short, that then we converted to Christianity, and we used to do things before Christianity, and now we're asking, should we do the same things or not? And for example, one of this, we used to go to the temple, okay? What do? You go and sit, and after you finish the worship, there is a meat there that sacrifices to God. So every time you have an animal, the animal divided to 3 portions. One quarter is for the God. So you put it on the altar and burn it and you smell it and make the God is happy. So this is the first quarter. The second quarter is for the worshippers. So we bring the food like as we do after the fellowship. So we get and take the second portion and we'll go and cook it and eat it together. The third one was for the priest. So that's how the priest get his compensation. So that was part of his money, to get his money by that. So he either take part of that, take it home and eat with his family, but most of that they sell it to people in the temple. And here's come the problem. So, the meat in the temple are very cheap. So should I buy meat that's cheap? So think about economically now, Say how far you can go to store to buy something cheap. So that was a very spiritual but also economic thing about, like really, if you go to the temple, you buy a cheap meat. And then the other thing was about if I go to a friend and I have no idea, and my friend is non-Christian and is eating this meat, and he's serving me a meat that was offered to God, the other gods. So this became a big dilemma for these Christians. Some of them were really very strong, good Christians, say, no, we should not do that, and we should say anybody who eats from this meat, they are really not good Christian. And the other group, the one that's kind of like more on the thinking level, say like, well, really, there is no really, if we believe in one God, though these people do not know these gods are just nothing, right? So then why should I be afraid? I can take advantage of that. I can eat a good meat. I can eat a cheap meat. And really in my mind and my heart, I know there is no God. It's only one God. So Paul is running into a dilemma in a church that they have a group that says, no, we should not touch this meat. We should not eat it. We should not take advantage if it's either cheap or free or anything. So they have the clean cut, no, no, no. And you have the bunch of smart one that sit down and sit logically and rationally to say, like, well, there is no God. We only believe in one God. Why can't we take advantage of cheap meat? And we can, because I never know. How can I know every time I go to some houses that if this meat was a meat that's offered to the other gods or not? And here Paul is jumping into a conflict in a church about those people who really feel like, I have the knowledge that I know God is the only one God, and I do not care, so I go and eat and do whatever I want. So here Paul is in a big dilemma as a pastor, trying to see that there is a weak one that's really seeing they want to be a good Christian, and being a good Christian means I should not touch or eat or do anything that's related to my old tradition. But you have the other bunch of people who say, no, there is really nothing wrong with that. I can eat from this meat. I am free. I can do whatever. This Paul, he's coming to say, like, want to tell those who are really thinking they are maybe smarter, they're more knowledgeable, they are the one who knows how to be rational and think in a very different ways. I try to tell them, your way of thinking is right, but your way of practice is dangerous. If you are thinking that's because the knowledge that makes you free, what about your other brothers who think that to be a good Christian is to be this way? When you do that, what you create a stumbling. You're making your brothers and sisters are really blocking them from growing. So he starts really here to talk about like two groups of those who are really, they got it right. It's very good. Like when you feel people, they are really good Presbyterian. Like when they can quote the Book of Orders. They know all the rules. They know how, that makes me happy as a Presbyterian, But what about those who maybe really know little about those? Those who maybe know so little and feel like, oh wow, I do not belong to this group. These people are so perfect and so educated and so knowledgeable and so like in the ivory tower, and I'm so down there. So what do? And somehow, intentionally or unintentionally, you are pushing them away. So he's saying, if your knowledge is not coming from a heart that's loving and caring, that's why I love his knowledge, his comparison about puffs up and builds up. It's like he's really summarized the whole thing about it. And Paul is one of who's really immersed in many philosophy. Paul was himself a philosopher, So he's not the one that will say, oh, do not be educated, do not. He loved knowledge, but he's trying to talk about the best knowledge that's coming from a loving heart. Paul will be the last one to push anything down, but he knows that even those who learn much about something, but he's saying, what are you getting? The knowledge that you get in life, is it really puffs up? But he's saying about verse love, the Christianity that teach you love, that makes you, builds you. The knowledge that makes you like you stand on everybody's shoulder and makes you like you walk over dead bodies. You do not care because it makes you comfortable and you want to get you where you are. How many times we think this way today in our culture? How many times we see many not good presidential candidates all over history that sometimes turn to nasty and saying things bad about each other. And because the point is not about the ethics. Everybody's trying to sell us they are good Christian or they are better ethical. But when you listen to the way they talk, when you listen to the way they act to each other, it has nothing to do with Christianity. All of them, none of them is away from it. Everybody's want to run to the seat. And for the sake of getting the seat, these just smash everybody else. They push everybody. They do not care even if they are walking over dead bodies. They do not care because they're focused on the seat, on the final thing. Do not be foolish by anybody just use slogans about Christianity or about really, but see their actions. How is your life is about? You telling me that you care about everybody and see you are dancing over the dead bodies of the people. You do not care about creating lies and destroying your competitors just for the sake of getting there. This is the kind of that's what the kind of saying, I do not care how much degrees you have. I do not care how much money you have. I do not how much you can be a great preacher to make me say, I'm in awe of what you're saying. But I care about your actions. Your action is louder and deeper than any of these things. So those who think they're smarter and they're in a place to, you know what, I can do whatever I want. Yes. Liberty, freedom, me. I'm free to do whatever I want. As far as I'm not caught, as far as I'm not violating anything to put me in jail, I am free. You're right. You are free. But the freedom in Christianity is different from the one that's given to you by the civil law. Regardless if you live in Europe or America, this is all human-made way about how to live free. But Christianity redefined the idea of freedom. Freedom that's centered about, I will not be happy to think that I'm walking over dead bodies or pushing people away to make myself, I have a better life. And those around me is paying the price. I could not close eyes and pretend that I do not see them. I do not hear them. I do not know anything about them. Christianity is this conscious that keeps pushing you. It's like this pulse in your heart that's always keep reminding you. You cannot be blind. You cannot be ignorant. You cannot be centered around yourself. It's this kind of balance. Yes, I have a freedom and God gave us a lot of freedoms to enjoy it. But what kind of freedom and pleasure that I can get if everybody else is sacrificing around me? Whatever I'm creating this big deposit in my account, but who's paying the price? Everybody around me. Maybe by the law you are right. As far as you're not doing anything criminal, you're not caught, you're not in jail. You are by law maybe a clean person, but not by God's law. By God's law is saying at your heart and say about how many damage that we can do on our way. Yes, you are free. Yes, you have liberty. Yes, you have many things that you can do. But Christianity reminds you that you live in community. You do not live for yourself. Unfortunately, part of what we gain and lost in the Western civilization is it's a good and also it's a pros and cons. It's the individualism that was based on in our civilization. For the sake of running fast and gaining many things in our society, in the Western civilization, the price was really a lot of family values and community was pushed away. Not saying it's bad, but that's part of the nature. If you want to run faster, what do? You drop things one another after another. Yes, we are the first world in terms of civilization compared to other places. But the price for that is costly too. Yes, we gain to be farther compared to others. But at the same time, we lost many values. As we want to go faster and higher, was the reason is everybody who used to hold hands was what we do. We're just giving up one hand after another, after another, after another. And the whole focus on me, 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 right? Which in somehow is good, actually. I celebrate that. Sometimes people say, oh, you came from Middle East with a lot of sense of community. And I say, like, well, actually, I love part of that there, but actually I love the part of the freedom of individual thing here. But sometimes we do it too much to the point where we are so lonely and so like we are losing part of our identity that we are created to be in community. We are not created also, I know as I go back to my life back in Egypt and in the third world culture, also I was sometimes suffocated from too much connection, too much people. Like I want some time for myself sometimes, you know. So it's the balance between really is like time for me, for myself to grow, but also there is no grow outside of the community. I need them and they need me. I did not need to be suffocated by too much, but also I didn't need to feel lonely and just I'm the only one standing there on the top of the mountains. This is the kind of Christianity saying everything you do or happen to you centered around the community. If you do not care about your little brothers and sisters, how may you think, oh, they are not smart enough, oh, they did not get it, oh, they are so strict, they are so evangelical or so whatever, or they take the Bible literally, or all of these titles that we try to make them like. But really, do you love them? All these things, when we label each other, we're saying how much we love each other or not. Labels do not give us an excuse to destroy each other. Labels do not give us an excuse not to be in loving. We disagree, and it's okay to disagree. But remind yourself that you are here because you are called by the one who brought you in this church. The one who invented this product of bunch of people come together, eat together, laugh together, learn together, sing together, is not me and you. It's the one who brought His only Son to give us the new hope for this world. And the one who came, when He came, He did not come to the philosopher, to the smart one, to the one who can think deeply on a deeper level, on a deeper theological level. He came to all of us, and especially to the little ones. Paul himself, remind himself that one day he thought he was a good Jew. And he was killing people, literally killing people, especially Christians, because he felt that he was a good Jew and he wanted to save his faith. But at the same time, when he moved, Paul became the first one to fight for the non-Jews. Do you know the title of Paul? He is the epistles to the Gentiles. The one that used to hate to hear anything about Gentiles. The one who only loved anything about Judaism, anything else is unclean. He's in our world today, he will be a terrorist. If you want to describe really Paul in the way he was jealous to his religion as a Jew, he will be in our dictionary today like a radical terrorist. Can you imagine this person who's coming from this bad, dark place? He hates everything about Gentiles. He is the forerunner anytime to say, hey, when we teach this way, we're still thinking as a Jew, we need to move on. Paul has a big fight. I don't know how many know, Paul and Peter, there's a big fight in the Bible. Do you know that? It's not a secret. There's a big fight in the Bible between Paul and Peter. Ooh, really? I thought they were good. They always get along. No, that's not true. They literally fought. And they fought about, they both Jews, and they fought about what to do, and it was about circumcision. Should we circumcise our children as they come to Christianity? And Paul is the one that's saying, I remember one day I used to hate these people. I used to not to stand any words that's coming about Gentiles. But today, because of Christ's love and grace, I know that they are coming from a different place. You do not tell them, oh, you are so slow, you are not smart. You need to hold their hands and walk with them. If sometimes they need to walk like a baby, walk with them like a baby. If they need to walk like a toddler, walk with them like a toddler. If they need to walk like a runner in a marathon, walk with them like a marathon. This is the true Christianity that's not designed for one pace and one way of living, but for all. I do not care much about those who can be on their own. Christianity is always the one that's big about those who are struggling to make it. Those who are in the corner, those who are really in the dark side. This is the Christianity that we know about. Any knowledge, anything that you gain in this life, if it's not centered about your brothers and sisters, then you need to question your idea about what Christianity is about. This, as we see it, is like Paul putting these two different ways of living as human. You want to live with the idea of gaining things, being an authority, living your liberty, or you want to live the knowledge versus the love. So he talks about not the positive knowledge, but he talks the knowledge that's really not centered in Christ makes you puffs up. But the love that Christ gave you help you to build yourself and build others. The knowledge that's centered around humanity, that the knowledge is about me, me, me. But the Christ love is centered about me cannot grow without others. Me cannot be seen without others. Me cannot hold hands unless I have somebody that I call others to say I hold hands. The knowledge that she's talking about here, it's like a fake power. But the love that she's talking about here is the power of the community. The community that sometimes, even when I fail, their hands will reach out to me to pick me up. So this is the knowledge that always makes them not care about how many troubles I make for others. But the Christianity and the love that Paul is talking about always creates ways. Find ways to everybody according to their needs, according to their capacity, mentally, physically, and spiritually. The knowledge that we see here is the knowledge that does not care about the others. But the love that we see here is the love that's centered about where is my brothers and sisters? How are they doing? Paul is taking the side of those who are weak, taking the side of those who may claim them to be limited in many ways, but they are not limited from God's love and grace. Paul put the Christ love above everything. And later, if you continue to read in this Bible, you will see that Paul is really putting the Christian love about anything, even the spiritual gifts. I close with you as really, we forgot that was not a long time ago when we went through the pandemic. Remember the COVID era, right? Remember what happened to our churches. None of us planned for that. We have no idea. We thought that something will happen on earth when we are in heaven. We'll watch it from heaven, but we have no idea this will happen to us and we'll be here. Where everything changed. And big thing changed our church. We used to do churches as usual. We know how to do communion. We know how to touch. We know how to do things. And now we have all restrictions about should we go to church with mask on or no mask on. Should the pastor touch the chalice when you do the communion or should not do that, you know? Should the pastor look normal as the way we look Or we put him like in a space bag, something just to make him isolated from all of these things. And we start to question all of these things. And we thought, some of us, we know, I want communion to be this way. I want communion to be the same way. And some people say, but it's really dangerous. We want to know that we are living in a different way. And we were fighting about who's really more open-minded, who really pro-science and who is against science, who's really taking the recommendation of the doctors and the CDC seriously, and who those really are not. Yes, it's okay to debate about things. It's okay to disagree. But in the middle of that, we forgot to listen to each other and to know that and to value those who really feel, unless the pastor touches it this way, it's not a communion anymore. Or those who are open-minded and know it's not about the pastor's power or the way he do things. And in the middle of that, we forgot, do we still love each other in the way we listen to the both sides? Do we still understand where everybody's coming from instead of judging them? Understand why is this very important? When I used to work in a hospital, and lots of people will try to figure that what is my religion, and then if they figure out I'm Protestant, then the Catholic will kick me out of the room, like you are Protestant, you shall not be here. Or if you are evangelical, you're not saying things in a specific way. But it was really my experience was dealing with, especially the Catholic one, knowing that you have to do some tricky things. If you say it or do it, they will accept you as a Protestant pastor. And one of these things, like when I say the Lord's Prayer, I have to say the trespasses, like I have to say that. You know when to stop at the end of the prayer, of the Lord's Prayer. The last line we say it. That's how you know. That's how they can catch you as like, oh, you are not one of us. And the other thing is like just simply do the symbol of the cross sign. Like, was like, will this make me not a good Protestant or sermon pastor if I do the cross sign in front of them? But it is very important for them. It is for the one that's sick and laying there, that's saying that I am connected to you. I'm trying to build bridges. Even my own knowledge as a Presbyterian pastor, it does not really matter. I didn't have to do this sign to show that Christ and the cross is in my heart. But if I do it to my little brothers who are dying and sick, and that will bring them peace, would this be more important than to show that I am a good Presbyterian who will never say the word trespasses, but will say debts and debtors? Well, this me really, and then this is the way that I examine myself and the way to Christianity and the love of Christianity is about breaking all these barriers and just try to do, because the focus is not, I'm not making them Presbyterian Protestant. I'm trying to say God's love is here for you. And it's okay if you say trespasses or debts and debtors. It's okay if you close with the last line of the Lord's Prayer or not. It's okay to do the cross sign. It will not really make my faith inferior. It actually makes me to find a way how we can connect and relate to each other. Amen.
See if anyone has any prayer